Hey everyone, and welcome back to Tuesday Night Legacy. It's been a little while since I posted on the channel, mostly because we added a new family member to our little unit. I'm going to have to show him the ropes on how to play Legacy, so that's going to take a lot of my time, and I'll try and get as many videos out as I can in between those learning sessions. So let's talk about these decks. On the left, we have Warren playing a lands deck. Oh no, oh no, there we go. This is a classic control deck that is often quite good against these death and taxes, low to the ground strategies. It's using all of these fun different land cards to kind of control the board state at any given time, Maze of Ith being a particularly strong one, Punishing Fire being extremely good in this particular matchup, with the Grove of the Burn Willows being able to kill all of those X2s quite easily and bring that back. And of course it wins the game with the big bad boy coming out of Dark Depths, the Merit Lage. This particular build also runs a couple of endurances. I am not 100% certain if that is... well, you get a lot of endurances, but this one's got the full 4, 2 in the main and 2 in the side. And it, of course, runs 4 crop rotations to find the lands that it needs. And one of the spicy extra cards here we might see is the Tower of the Magistrate. On the right, we have Mason playing that red-white equipment deck that we've seen him on a couple times. This deck uses things like Mother of Runes and Stoneforge Mystic and Thalia, so it tries a little bit to be a Death and Taxes deck, but it splashes that red for things like Eidolon of the Great Revel, Magus of the Moon, and most importantly, Fervent Champion. The champion making almost every one of the equipments in the deck be free to equip as soon as they're in play on him. So with him having haste as well, you're able to swing in with that sword and get a trigger right off the bat. You don't have to wait an extra turn. Also has a Johnny Vengeant to sometimes be able to Armageddon your land base. So, gotta watch out for that. Now that you're familiar with these decks, let's get the game started. So on the left we have Warren playing his Thespian stage into that Shadow Spear turn 1. Being able to equip things, giving them lifelink and trample, and he can actually make things lose indestructible if he needs to. We see that Fervent Champion coming out on Mason's side, being able to get in there for 1. Warren playing a Taiga and an Exploration and a Maze of Ith. So that Maze of Ith being pretty good right now, stopping Mason from being able to actually get any real damage in. Maze of Ith right here, being able to untap that attacking creature. We see Mason deploy the Cemetery Gatekeeper, exiling, I think, a land from the graveyard. He's exiling his own land, the Prismatic Vista, so now whenever a land plays a land, yeah, so whenever a land is put into play, Warren is going to take 2 damage here. Pretty good play for Mason. Just another Thespian stage from Warren. We're seeing a Stoneforge Mystic come down from Mason. Mason in a pretty good spot here. I think Warren only has 1 card in hand, no creatures. He's only able to untap 1 of those things with the Maze of Ith. Probably whatever is going to be equipped with the Sword of Fire and Ice here. Sword of Fire and Ice, of course, just going into hand. Stoneforge Mystic isn't that good. Untapping the Gatekeeper, taking 1 from the Fervent Champion. I think Gatekeeper is actually... oh, he's a vampire. I didn't realize that. I thought he was a knight. Because if he was a knight, that Fervent Champion would be giving him +1/+0 until end of turn. Not the case, but could have been interesting. We see another land come down, 2 for the Sword of Fire and Ice. Put into play right onto the Fervent Champion. Deploying an Eidolon of the Great Revel. This is going to tax Warren a little bit more. So we're seeing a tax and an endurance into play. This 3/4 with flash is going to be an excellent answer to this board state. Fervent Champion only being a 3/3, only has protection from red and from blue. So endurance can get right in front of that if he really needs to. And trade profitably there. Deciding to kill the Gatekeeper instead, allowing Warren to play lands. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if I missed Warren copying one of those Thespian stages, turning it into a taiga. Because if not, he would not have been able to make that play as endurance costs 2 green. You guys can let me know in the comments if I missed that trigger. I won't be offended. We see the endurance loaded up with the Shadow Spear. Now presenting as a 4-5 with lifelink and trample. Making attacks very difficult for Mason. A Wasteland coming down. Yes, of course, that Thespian stage must have copied, as Warren is using it to cast this crop rotation now. Sacrificing the Maze of Ith, getting any land he wants from the library. Being Dark Depths. Looks like we're going for the 2020 next turn. Seeing another Cemetery Gatekeeper come down, exiling the Maze of Ith. That land tax back in effect, but I don't think it's going to matter anymore. As, unless Mason has a Swords to Plowshares in hand, this is going to be game over here. None of these boys have flying. And that's a concede for Mason, and we are on to game 2. Merit Lage, too good sometimes. Well, that's a fun one. See the Field of the Dead come down? I don't have it in his list. Oh, it's in the sideboard. This is a sideboard card coming in. Just because there's a lot of lands constantly being played, so being able to get 7 different card types or land types into play is quite easy for Warren. And then he can start copying it with the Thespian stage and just get multiple triggers. Although this card is going to stop all of that. We see a Magus of the Moon come down. The Punishing Fire just getting used to get rid of the Mother of Runes instead. So all of these lands are now mountains. We see the Expedition map coming down. That's going to be important. Now Warren is actually not in the worst position here, being able to play that Dark Depths. Because it wasn't a Dark Depths when it came into play, it doesn't get the counters. And so if he can get rid of this tax effect, he actually just instantly gets that Merit Lage, and that could be the swing that wins him the game. But with 2 Magus in play, and I don't believe he runs any actual board wipes of any kind. Let's check the sideboard real quick here. Nope. Nothing that's going to get rid of 2 of these guys at the same time. Ooh, we see a Sulfuric Vortex come down. So this is going to do even more damage each turn. Nobody can gain any more life. 2 damage to the player whose upkeep it is. So that means that Mason is basically trucking in for 6 each turn. If the board state does not change in the next 2 turns, that'll be game. Warren currently trying to resolve his Sylvan Library trigger. If he really wants to, he could draw all 3 of these cards at the low cost of 8 life. With him already being at 11, I don't think that's going to be the case here, so he's probably doing a lot of mental math to see which of these cards is going to help. Decides on the order, draws his card for turn and exploration. 2 more Fancy Mountains, passing the turn. We see Mason with 3 mana, a second Sulfuric Vortex. That's 4 damage from attacks. This is going to be 4 damage on upkeep. If he doesn't win this turn, he's dead. And that's a concede, and we're on to game 3. All right, start with a Mox Diamond, having to discard a land, getting to tap for any color, playing an Exploration, getting an Urza Saga into play as one of the lands, playing Shadow Spear, and then playing a Wasteland. You know, like you do with lands sometimes. Down to 1 card in hand. This Urza Saga going to be extremely strong. A second Urza Saga and a Yavimaya, turning all of his lands into forests, creating that construct. This Fervent Champion not looking great right now. Shadow Spear loaded onto the construct. 1, 2, 3 artifacts in play, making that construct a 3/3. You put the Shadow Spear on it as a 4/4 with lifelink. and trample. With a potential 2 more constructs coming down. 1. No, you can only make 1 more construct next turn. Probably make... Well, it doesn't really matter which one you use. Both those Sagas, you can't get all 4. You can only get 3. But 3 constructs, probably not a bad thing. We see a Stoneforge coming down. Going and grabbing some equipment. How do you deal with all of these constructs? Ooh, interesting. Gonna grab a Basilisk Collar. Gonna give his creatures Death Touch and Lifelink. Pretty good when you put it on a first strike creature. The first strike would deal the Death Touch damage before any of the other damage, so the trample would be negated that way. Being able to kill an attacking construct per turn, maybe giving him just enough time to live. 2 mana there for another construct. Search the library for the Expedition map. Expedition map giving him a lot of options. Try to find a specific bullet land to get him out of this situation. That construct growing already into a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 for that attack right there. And here's that Tower of the Magistrate I was pointing at earlier. At first I couldn't figure out why Warren would go and get this card. Target creature gains protection from artifacts until end of turn. But what he can do with this card is activate it targeting the Fervent Champion or whichever creature that Mason is trying to equip, and it will not be able to be equipped because it cannot be targeted. It cannot be equipped by an artifact. So we see here a Wasteland coming down targeting the tower. Warren trying to decide if he wants to use that extra mana to maybe target the Fervent Champion in response. Just give it protection from artifacts this turn to stop Mason from being able to equip it. Decides against it. How much is Basilisk Collar? It's only 1. He already played his land, so you could still just play it. All right, we see the Cemetery Gatekeeper coming down, exiling the tower, making sure that it's gone for good. Urza's Saga up to 3, paying 3 mana, copying the Urza Saga. So now that Thespian Stage is a permanent version of that Urza Saga. I wish I could explain this a little bit better to you guys. But something with the layering of an Urza Saga that's on two lore counters being copied by the Thespian Stage. At some level in that card, it retains that knowledge of having the second layer. Here, let me pause it real quick. Of having that second lore counter on it, so you can still tap it each turn, create a construct, but it does not get sacrificed because you're not putting lore counters on it. And I know that works, but if somebody wants to leave me a detailed description on why that works, please feel free to go ahead and do that in the comments. So we see a Pyrite Spellbomb getting grabbed from that Urza Saga trigger, going to be able to deal with one of these creatures. And Warren's just crushing in with these 2 constructs here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage from that Trample Lifelink construct. Mason definitely on the back foot now. Because even if he gets that Basilisk Collar in play, Pirate Spellbomb can kill it. Whatever he tries to equip, there's the collar. And there's the Jite, both of them getting equipped. The Spellbomb used to blow up the Fervent Champion. And that's going to be the end of the game. Warren had just enough resources there to kind of overwhelm everything that Mason had at any given time, and was just able to bowl him over with the raw power of Urza's Saga in Legacy. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. We, of course, are going to try and get more stuff out in the future as often as possible. And thank you, as always, to Spellhold Games for allowing us to record in their store. Spellhold Games is moving locations. They are going to be at their new location in Orange as of August 1st, and you can find that address at their Facebook in the link in the description of this video. Speaking of links in the description of this video, if you guys like these deck lists, you should check them out because they are in the description of this video. Finally, our next video on the channel is going to be from our Modern 1K. It is going to be Amulet Titan versus Crashing Footfalls. We'll see you then.